Yeah, I quit.
Technically.
All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome to KBN Live. Coming at you live now. We're trying a little something new tonight, streaming to a couple locations. I'm going to try to keep up with comments from more than just Facebook. But I'm Jeff Malott. We got my partner up here, Ryan Lambert. We're your host, as always. Ryan with the fancy new backdrop and the awesome new mustache.
Hey.
Living large over there.
Right.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Yeah, we're excited to have a couple folks from BASS in with us tonight. We've got a friend of the program, Steve Owens. Tournament Director Extraordinaire, Steve Owens. Appreciate you, Steve. And for the first time, John Stewart from BASS. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Yeah, we got a bunch of folks jumping on here right now. So if you guys are just getting on, we're already getting comments on Ryan's mustache, so we appreciate that. If you're just getting on, let us know you're watching and where you're watching from. We're going to get into some good questions with these fellas. It's been a while. There's been some tournaments fired back up, but there hasn't been a BASS Kayak Series tournament in a while. So there's one coming up here in just a few weeks. We're going to talk a little bit about that and some other things. So, yeah, let's get going. I mean, season restart. John, I guess we can talk to you about that. It's getting ready to fire back up in lacrosse. You know, I've heard some new mandates have come down up there in Wisconsin. What kind of challenges have you faced trying to get that back off the ground?
Oh, you know, it has been crazy trying to get all our tournaments back going again. And the hard part is, like you said, just the local and the state. You know, every state and every city and every county has something different. That how they interpret rules and regulations. So you really have to work closely together with the local host and all that to work through it. Luckily, we have a great host in lacrosse, you know, Jeremiah. That he's fantastic to work with, and their regulations aren't too strict. So we have ways around them. They've got some, you can only have 10 people gather in a public place, like a park or something like that. But the or like a municipal building or something like that, you can only have 10 people in. So, but in the restaurants and places like that, they're free to have 50% capacity. So, you know, we're utilizing a good restaurant there in town for our registration and so forth, and we're going to make it work. And we're trying some different things, and we've tried different things with all of our tournaments. Some online briefings and you know, pretty much everything is digital now. And I'll be honest with you, actually, Hank Weldon and I have been trying to get more of this online stuff, online briefings, just get maybe with the times. You know, all these kids everything is on YouTube and everything is on the computer like we are tonight. And we don't feel like we've been utilizing that to the best of our ability. So this is going to be a good test. We've done it in a couple. They've done it at the elites, the last two elites. They've done online briefings and so forth. And Chris Bowes did one at the last Open. And we're going to do it for this kayak event. And I think it's going to be pretty cool, actually. the briefing part of it.
Yeah, I mean that's how kind of the locals, even I think the BOS and some others have had to do it. They've had to adapt just for the times. So I think for the folks traveling up there, I'll be up there. It's going to be nothing new because we've been kind of doing that for a couple months. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Seems to be the move. And I mean, you've got some good guys on the kayak side that are pretty experienced with that. We do that a lot, for our local club. Steve-O does. We'll do the captain's meeting the night before virtual. And, you just acknowledge that you've watched it. That way you're good to go and legally up to date on the rules.
Yeah, the one thing that you lose with it is the opportunity for like our sponsors to intermingle with the anglers, and we haven't really found a good way to bridge that gap yet. We're trying to figure that out, and how we can, we encourage the sponsors to come to like the registration and the briefing and just talk. They just talk to the anglers, because the anglers are a good source of just resource for the sponsors to figure out what the angler actually wants. Old Town, I think, is going to be there. Actually, they may be the only one. But like at the other events, when Hook is there and they listen to what the anglers like in a shirt or in outerwear, they use that and they go back and they develop things. And so we kind of lose that when we're not able to gather together and mingle and just listen to ideas. But we'll get through that. We'll figure that part out as well. And it's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
I want to go back to something at the first event at Logan Martin. You hung out a lot there at the kayak deal in Pell City. What was the response for the first kayak event that maybe some of those sponsors, had their eyes on for the first time? What was the response you got from that?
I think it was, I don't want to say they were surprised. I think they were more surprised at the turnout, not because of they weren't familiar with kayaks, but more because of the weather and the time of year. I think that had some people concerned that we wouldn't in March and it could get nasty, and it really wasn't that great of weather at that event. But they all showed out and they showed up, and I think the sponsors were pretty impressed with that. The ones that I talked to, Melinda with Hook and Brad with Abu Garcia, they were impressed with the good turnout and just really everything about it. The social aspect of the kayak anglers is a little different than some of the other series that we have. There's more of a social aspect, which Steve and the group told me about, but you really don't understand it or see it until you're there, which I was. And I thought that was pretty cool. Everybody was just happy and ready to get going. And we were extremely pleased with the good turnout that we had. And I'm pretty pleased with the turnout we have for this one coming up with everything that's going on. 126 anglers, I think, ended up with registered. So I think that's a pretty good number,
that's a great number, period.
For what we're doing here.
And I think, with your name recognition with Bass, like no matter what, Hobie's been in the game for a few years. KBF has obviously been in the game for a while, but to a bass boater, to the bank angler, to the just fan at home, none of those really carry that name recognition that BASS does. So when you guys started this kayak trail, that turned a lot of heads from the beginning. So I think people are kind of coming out to be a part of that name, be a part of, sitting around with their grandpa with their Bass sticker on the back window of the pickup truck like that. It kind of brings about those memories, and you want to get in on that. So what, I guess from BASS standpoint, where do you guys see room for improvement or streamlining on the kayak side? I
think Steve knows this. I think the the place we're going to grow mostly is at the state level and get these, get the Bass Nation states. If you're not familiar with, maybe you're a kayak angler that's not familiar with the Bass Nation. Well, it's not just the Bass Nation Kayak Series. We have a Bass Nation, which is all clubs, all Bass affiliated clubs in the world are part of the Bass Nation. We have 47 states and we have 10 foreign countries that are all part of the Bass Nation. And that's just a bass club that's affiliated with bass. So I think where the big growth is, and we have avenues for the Bass Nation anglers, the boat anglers, the high school Bass Nation anglers, the junior Bass Nation anglers. We have an avenue, college. We have an avenue to get to a championship, and for the college and the Bass Nation guys to get to the classic. But high school has a championship, college has a championship, the Bass Nation has a championship. Now the Bass Nation Kayak Series has a championship to get to, and every state has an avenue to get those particular anglers in whatever group you're in to a championship. And I think that's the biggest area opportunity for growth within the states is those Bass Nation state championships and state and tournaments like that. And it can be frustrating, I know, because we did this along with the team trails. We also brought in this team trail series stuff that are just team trails that are all over the country, and they're affiliated with Bass, and they have a way to the championship and to the classic as well. And everybody wants it to happen like overnight, like every state's going to jump on board and every state's going to have a fantastic kayak championship. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. You're going to have some states that jump on board right away. Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, are starting to, they've jumped on board pretty quick. And then you're going to have other states that are, let me see what happens. Let's watch things and see what's going on, and then we'll kind of copy what the states that are successful are doing, and then we'll grow. And that's that's just over my experience. And I've been at Bass for almost 17 years, 16 and a half years. Just from my experience, that's how it works. You just, and I'm the same way. I would love it to just happen and overnight we're just, boom, we have 50,000 new members, and then I can march my way down to the CEO's office and I can say, look, we got this many members. It exploded. We need more funding. We need more, sponsor dollars behind it. We need everything.
You need to hire Steve-O full time.
It just doesn't work that way. You got to work your way up, and I know that. And so we got to be patient. We got to do a good job in the states that are jumping on board, and then we got to just keep on encouraging the states that are lagging behind to hop on board. And this is how you do it, type of deal.
So I'll kind of add on to that because I'm trying to help get BASS going here in Arkansas. Steve and I kind of talked about this on the phone earlier, and a lot of questions I'm running into because what we wanted to do this year, and we're still maybe trying to do it, is just have an one tournament this year and then maybe turn it into something else next year or the year after. Yeah. But there's a lot of questions about all the fees to get involved for one tournament. And the guys, they're looking at, if I'm doing the math right, like $75 to fish one open tournament. And I don't think they have a problem with the BASS, the Bassmaster $15 fee or the Bass Nation fee. It's the water gets muddy when you're talking about $30 to the Bass Nation Bass Boat Series, and then the kayak guys are wondering what they get back in value. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And my job as Bass Nation director is to try to navigate through all that. And so I encourage. We went through it with the high school as well. So you got to understand that these states, way back in the day, back when I was young and you two, Ryan, you weren't even born yet. Back in those days, um, BASS and the Bass Federation was it. That was the only thing around. Everybody fished that. We had 50,000 members out there, and you could do a lot more with. You didn't have to charge as much because you had more members. So nowadays there is so much out there for a general guy to fish, anybody to fish. There's online fishing tournaments that I can enter in a boat and you can enter in a kayak and fish this tournament and do a catch, photograph, and release and fish anywhere in the United States. There's things like that. There's team trails, and there's clubs and all that. And they all got to figure out a way to make enough money to exist. And so I encourage, and we did this when the high school came on board, I encourage all the states to jump on board with the high school, have a high school state championship, and waive those state dues. That's encouraging. I encourage that. And I encourage that with the kayaks and the team trails and anything we're getting started with, at least to get off the ground and get started. Now, I can do all the encouragement I want to do, but the states ultimately have the bottom line decision, what they think will make their states run the best, and how they can raise some money and do all the things they need to do, run tournaments. It's not cheap, and everybody, this, everybody wants 100% payback. Everybody wants to fish a tournament and be able to, get a paycheck all the way down to 50th and 100th place, but it's just not realistic. And you just have to, they just have to figure out a way to do it. Now, I think I've told the Arkansas, Ron, I think I've talked to Ron and told him the same thing I'll tell you, is that I encourage them to waive the fees. You can have an open tournament. Arkansas Bass Nation can have an open tournament and let anybody fish without being a member. You can have charity event in the Bass Nation. You can have charity events. You can have open tournaments.
I'm writing all this down, John.
Yeah, you can make everybody be a member if you want, but to me, it's not the smartest way to grow your membership. It's the same thing with team trails. Some of the states are having a hard time with their team trails and getting them up and off the ground. Let the guys that are already Bass Nation members, fish that for free, and charge a little small, minuscule, small entry fee, like $20 or something for a non-member, just to give them a taste of your state Bass Nation. And then it's your job to run a good enough event, give them something that they want to come back for, right? So, and I'll tell any president that's sitting here in front of me, if you're not growing, and if you're not, if you're not growing, there's something wrong, something missing. You've got to do something different than the other guy that wants them to fish with you. That's just how it is in any organization.
Wouldn't you say that's the deal, Ryan? There's been some confusion on the local levels?
There's been confusion from myself, and I have Steve-O to talk to all the time. What was it we were talking about last week or something? You said something about, we were talking about gather money for the state. And you're like, well, we'll get this much money and we'll put it toward the Bass Nation dues for our club that's fishing our own, separate state championship. And I was like, what are we talking about here? And he, if everybody because we're using our state championship as a qualifier for the Bass Nation. So everybody has to be a member. So I overlooked that altogether. So I couldn't remember what we were talking about. I think, and I think if you kind of streamline one number, or like we're kayak fishermen are real simple-minded people. If we had one number, across the board, if we could. And I know that Bass Nation, each state has its own president and its own different dues. Is there a way that you could just make the kayak fishing one level across all the states, where there's just one? If you tell me I need to pay $75 a year to go fish these tournaments, perfect. Here's $75. That's if you just put it out there across all the states, I think that would simplify things, for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are confused on different fees and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean the issue is, believe me, I would love to have one fee. I would love to be able to go online for a new member to go online, or for Steve who's filling out his club roster, and to be able to go online and pay for a Bass membership, for a Bass Nation membership if that guy needs one, pay for club dues, all that on one thing. Realistically, and just quite honestly, our system that Bass has and has for years will not allow us to do it. We have to figure out other ways to. It's an internal programming thing. We have our Bass membership database is a different database than the Bass Nation database, and that has a lot to do with it right there. So, and we have states that don't want to charge $75. We have states that are on board that are willing to waive fees. So and they feel like that's the best way to go. So if you pick a number, somebody's not going to be happy.
But some of those differentiators, they're involved with the state president, like the state Bass Nation Club, if I'm phrasing that correctly, I think, right? Isn't that where, Steve, you can speak to that? Isn't that where a lot of the differences are?
Yeah, it's exactly. And I think, and it just came to me as you were mentioning it all. And I think what we're doing tonight with John here, we probably should have done a while back. Just everyone's busy and we just lose sight of things. We just need to absolutely, like Katie just posted a link for the Bass Nation presidents. We could easily come up with a sheet with every state's state dues, and at the header, simply put it, Bass Master entry fee or membership fee $30 or $15, Bass Nation $30. You can fish the entire country. After that, to fish each particular state, you need to pay $25 to fish Mississippi, $18 to fish Michigan, whatever it is. And that'll just be something we can post on the internet for forever. And that'll answer basically about everyone's questions. But Josh Evans asked kind of like what you did about the standardization. And I think where we're at now is good. Like I said, again, John coming on tonight, because, we've had Bass, these kayak thing going on for a little bit. But it just didn't quite have that personable feel for a lot of anglers, because, we haven't had what we've got now. That's why KBN is a good resource, is that it reaches the people the way it needs to. So now that John's got to speak to him and see how he is and his demeanor. Early on, I was leery because it is the big business. It's intimidating. But second phone call I had, he had as a ringback, one of my favorite bands of all time. I said, so this guy is laid back, And then Wayne, we talked to him because we've been working with him for a long time before he asked me or Tyler or Patrick or anybody to work with him. And he was just like, look, you have to trust me, which everyone else has to trust us directors now, that we're the buffer in between. Wayne said, just trust me, man. These people are serious about this. It goes beyond the cliche things of they want to service the angler. John mentioned, we're in the first year of a lot. Just simply, he mentioned trying to transition more to the internet with a lot of things. They pulled that from working with us here recently. So they show on the fly, they're willing to help give people what they want, but we don't have a voice to get that out to every angler very quickly. That's why we have so much keyboard stuff going on. So to answer your question, if we do have a little sheet like that should handle a whole lot. And it'll take out some of the lead work for people who are trying to set these up, because the biggest frustration so far is just being able to communicate those things. And part of that frustration is it's all brand new, so you really don't know what questions to ask to get answered. So there's a separate set of frustrations on top of everything that you're trying to do logistically and number-wise and people pleasing, which is always difficult. So, like John said, we're transitioning to. I think you back up to what he said, and I think he meant it with an emphasis that I hope everybody gets. We're trying to get this off the ground. Once we get it off the ground, we can paint it, remold it, reshape it like we need it. The most important thing is for everybody to get behind Jeff and the other people in your state to get this going. The fees may not be kilter to what you're used to, but let's just get rolling. Then we can adjust, make it what you want it to be. And I spoke with a director who was wanting to get it started in his state, and he wasn't, kosher with everything like he thought it. But I said, dude, don't be a quitter. Just stay with it. Get it started, because if you're not operating within it, you can't make it anything. You're just not going to have something. And it is that important, because then we have events where after you've traveled the big opens and you're tired and you're out of vacation, you can drive 3 hours in your own state and fish a big time event, So that's important to stay behind everybody.
Let me say this. I've been to one event. I've only made it to Logan Martin. I think everybody that's been to one has been thoroughly impressed and really had a good time at the event. And I think across the board, people want it to work. So we're not saying anything different than that. And so, people are behind it and they're just asking questions, just like Ryan and I are. And I think something you said earlier, Steve, when we were on the phone, that makes it really simple is no matter what, everybody can know this. You're paying $15 to be a BASS member and $30 to be a nation member, and you can just bank that. And then you can work out the rest with the state. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that part's pretty simple. You can just kind of bank that no matter what.
To be a member, to be a Bass Nation member in your given state, those are the hard set numbers for those two events. I mean, believe me, I know that it can be confusing, and it's not just confusing for the kayak angler. It's the exact same for just a guy that wants to join a bass club. When I'm recruiting a new bass member to my bass club, a boat bass club, he's asking the same questions you all are asking. Hey, what are the dues? And I'm telling him, you got to be a bass member. $15 if you're, for your first year, and then you can get deals or whatever. You got to be, and then you got our club's a Bass Nation club. You got to be then you got to pay $30 for that, and then our club dues are $30. So it's $30 more. And then when you fish a tournament, it's $60 to fish a tournament. And it's you want to get in the big bass pot, and it can be confusing to anybody, not just what we're talking about tonight. So I know that's always has been a hard, just something difficult to get around, and it's our club has just went to what you all are talking about. My bass club, we just tell them now. We just skip all that. We tell a new member it's $60.
Yeah.
To get in our club. And then we take the money that goes to the national and the money that goes to the club, and we separate it, and we don't even tell the guy, what we're doing with it, because that's the best. It's just less confusing that way. And I hear you that's what it is. And that's, so when you're in a club, when you're in Arkansas and you're trying to get it started, that's the best way to do it. Tell an Arkansas kayak angler it's going to cost you $75, and that's all he needs to know. He's going to start getting a magazine in the mail, and he's going to start getting the Bass Times in the mail, and he may ask you where'd that come from, and you go, that's part of your dues paid for that, and that just makes it easier, simpler for that. But we're not there yet. We got a lot of growing to do, and we just have to figure out together how to get there. And if I can help in any state, if there's anybody out there listening having trouble getting this started in your state, Steve can help. I can help, and be glad to do it. Be glad to call the president and see where they're at on it. Get their take on it and talk them through it. And most of them are just these presidents that run their states. Get their take on it. They do so much. It's like a full-time job, and it's volunteer. It's a volunteer basis for all these guys. And they really, seriously, the ones that do a great job, it's a full-time job for them. There's others that do it like a part-time job, and there's others that don't do a very good job at all. I mean, I'll be there. They know that. But I'd be willing to walk any of them through it and talk them through it, and encourage them to let the kayak anglers. And this is what I've been telling most of them: when they call me, let the kayak anglers that are established in your state run it. Let them. They know what they're doing. Let them hook up with a guy that knows what he's doing, knows how to run kayak tournaments. Put them on your board of directors as the kayak director for your state, and let them run with it. That's what they've done with Steve. That's what they've done in a few other states. And I think when other states see that and see that that's the successful way to do it, other states will follow.
So Josh Evans asked a really good question. The state dues that are paid, the Bass Nation state dues paid by the anglers, what is that money going to, like, return wise to the kayak angler? Like, we understand it goes to the bass boat clubs. Is there benefits being taken out for the kayak anglers? And part two to that question, why not just take that money and put it toward, like, the kayak state director that's running the kayak specific section of that?
Again, I can answer, and maybe I don't know how every state does their budget. They don't have to have their budgets approved by me, and I don't want that.
Yeah, but general idea, like what
Yeah.
are some of the things that it might go to?
So, Steve can probably answer. Maybe, I don't know how the Tennessee budget is set up. If they're giving you any operating funds or anything like that to run your state tournament. In general, all the dues that go into a state general fund to run their programs, it's not just running. They have a junior program, they have a high school program, they have college programs, and you got to remember those dues are smaller in most states. Some are $5 state dues. I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Some are $5, some are $10, some are $20, based on what they do. So they have to fund all that, plus everything that they do. They have to fund out of the general fund. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about, let's say a Tennessee picks up. I keep throwing out Tennessee. As any state picks up,
we're pretty good.
100 new members. Let's say they pick up 100 new members, and the dues are $30 each. $3,000 in the grand scheme of things, in a big budget for a Bass Nation is not a lot of money when it comes to funding the operations. I don't know if Steve expenses reimbursed from Tennessee. I would imagine that he probably does to run a tournament. Most of them probably do. So by the time you do that, there's not a lot of money that goes directly back into, say, a particular tournament, whether it be kayak or high school or anything. They just have to figure out as a board, and that's another good reason for it to get a bass or to get a kayak guy on the board, is you can have a voice and you can say, when they're budgeting or when they're when they're doing a budget and they're trying to figure out what to spend what on, you have a voice. You can say, don't forget about the kayak. We got a kayak championship. We're looking to grow. We need to, in order to grow, we need to get some good prizes. So let's take some of this $3,000, and each Bass Nation gets some discounts from Hook and Abu and all kinds of other places, and take that money and they spend it on raffle prizes and door prizes and all that stuff. So, yeah, I guess I probably didn't answer your question, but
you sort of did. I think that kind of, if some of that money is going to flow back to the anglers or even the tournament director, because I have a soft spot for those guys, as I am one of those or have been. On the local level, a lot of guys don't want to hear about tournament directors getting their stuff reimbursed, but I think that's long overdue on a lot of times, because it's a lot of work to run tournaments.
Yeah,
Well, the biggest thing, going back to what Josh was asking, and John did answer it, it was interwoven in it, but John got to get it off the ground, do it like he said a minute ago. You're not going to have these answers or this structure in place, and I know we all want it to, like John said, you want it to start off the ground and be successful immediately, but it's sad. It's just, and it's not even sadly, it's just the nature of it. They don't know us, and I don't mean they as in boaters, but that man that's running that state, he doesn't know the kayak that's coming. So why would he trust him with all your money? Because he doesn't know you. And I'm certain that it's happened at every level of sports, fraud and things. So that's why, for me, I personally would not care to throw $100, and I know Josh doesn't care either. You just want to add it, get it rolling. Then at the end of the season, when you have these meetings across the country at each state, be a part of that meeting, and that's when you initiate, hey guys, here's what we would like to do. Because like I told you early on in the show, John and Bass, they've adopted some things that we do, and his biggest thing early on when I first met him was, there's two things that always stick with me no matter if I do anything else again, was, well, what does the rule say? And then you work backwards typically, and help me understand what you're wanting. You have to educate people because they're inexperienced in some. One question I want to ask John, and it was something that's just kind of stuck in my craw, and I'm not being a jerk, but I want to get this out of you. John, back up to Bass Classic. The Bassmaster Classic magazine, you explained to me, is laid out months in advance. It's all paid for painstakingly. It's like a home blueprint, spaced out. It's all booked. That magazine after the Classic, that is it. That's the big boom Super Bowl program. Is that kind of correct?
You're talking about the Bass magazine?
Yeah, the big one, the big deal after the Classic, where they celebrate, Hank Cherry and everybody. That magazine's basically dedicated for that. Now, if you're wanting coverage for other tiers of Bass and Bassmaster, that's typically in the Bass Times, correct?
Yes, for the most part. Your Bassmaster is going to be pro level stuff, and then a lot of how to, and a lot of there's a little bit of conservation. But the Bass Times is going to be more of a grassroots level coverage. Bassmaster Opens, and on down.
Okay, so that's what I was leading to. Some people were, why weren't we in this magazine and that magazine? And just to be honest with you, I didn't have the platform to say it to the masses. Hey guys, that magazine in particular, that's what pays the bills in a lot of instances. That magazine is dedicated for the Elite Pro Series right now. The Bass Times, again, as Bass gets into this more and more and more, you guys are just now learning how to cover kayak. And so it'll get better with time. So the Bass, Times magazine is what you look for when you want to see your kayak discovered typically. So
yeah, that's a sore subject with me. Being the Bass Nation director I'm always pushing for more coverage in Bassmaster and Bass Times, for that matter. The Bass Times used to be Bass Nation only. You wouldn't even see a pro article in it. It used to be strictly the grassroots magazine, grassroots anglers only, Bass Nation, not even invitationals or opens or any of that. It used to be just Bass Nation, strictly. But even that is, the ads for that magazine are where revenue comes from, and if sponsors see more of Hank Cherry and Brandon Palaniuk, then that's kind of what they get. I will say this: there has been more kayak coverage on Bassmaster.com and in quickly than any other platform that we've ever done. We push high school pretty hard, and we push college pretty hard, and we in the beginning we pushed nation pretty hard. But we had James Hall and Thomas Allen are huge advocates of the kayak, and we have really pushed the kayak coverage on Bassmaster.com. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's there. I mean, if you look at the front page, the home page of Bassmaster.com, it's got kayak down there at the bottom, kayak angling, and it doesn't have Bass Nation, deal. It doesn't have high school or any of that. So, we're behind it, and we do that for a reason, because we know that there's opportunity there to grow our membership. I mean, let's face it, we're a membership organization. We're going to do what we can to grow membership and sell memberships. That's advertising, and memberships is how Bass makes its money. And so that's where it all comes from. And we know there's a good way to do that. And that's why we're involved, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, I think, like Steve was saying, there's a few people that thought they got that Bassmaster sticker in the mail and they should have been on the cover of that magazine immediately.
I've never been on the cover of the Bassmaster magazine.
That's hard to believe, John.
Ryan, I don't know if they realize that John was talking about online tournaments earlier. We have the greatest online angler on the planet Earth in our group. We should get him on the magazine. I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to name him though.
No, I can't remember his name. Have you ever heard of Conrad Benetti?
Not me.
Either. All right.
Next. Nothing but love, Conrad. Hey, we got a little breaking news, Ryan. I guess I thought lacrosse was finished, the final registration, but I pulled it up a little bit ago, and it was actually at 124.
Okay.
So bumped up a little bit more. I thought it was 111 registered. So Dwayne threw a few more people there.
It's actually should be 126.
126. Are you telling me they got me again? They scooped me again? Those suckers. Let's see.
What'd you say?
Suckers.
My bad. My earpiece slipped again.
All right, so it's 124, but I'm sure it's going to be 126 soon because Dwayne is busy working, I'm sure.
Little fingers are flying over there.
Fingers are flying. But yeah, I mean, exciting things. We've got a lot of great questions from y'all. We appreciate that. People are excited to have another option. I mean, the Bass Open Series has been a huge hit. It's getting bigger and bigger. I think people are anxious to see BASS Nation. I like to call it Kayak Bass Nation.
Don't do it.
Keep growing as well. So I mean, it's going to be big. Let's talk about maybe a little bit about the future. I know you're talking about the state levels. Are there plans for any more opens in 21 besides the 5 from this year?
Not in 21. I wouldn't be surprised to see more in the future. It just depends on it depends on the participation. If we can get it to a level where we feel like we need to add events because people are on the waiting list and can't get in, and we're going to we'll add a tournament or two to then fill the need, we'll do that. But
what level are you looking to get to? So, I mean, you guys have been pulling especially for a first year tournament series, amazing numbers. Where would you like to see it? I mean, do you want to see every event at 200 anglers, or what's the magic number for you guys? I guess.
I'm not sure if there's a magic top end number, but yeah, we'd like to see, if we were at 200 or 250 at every tournament, and there was, we felt like we needed to cap it, or we were limiting the lakes that we go to because of the levels, and we felt like we needed to bring it down a little bit and spread it out, then, or maybe not require anglers to travel so far, to go to a regional, then we could look at adding some tournaments in there. It would be nice if it'd be nice if y'all would sign up a little quicker.
Buddy,
You don't know kayak anglers.
Kayak fishing.
So we're not worried about a week out. I mean, 2 weeks ago we were at 26 boats for.
Hey,
26.
don't worry about it, buddy. We got you. We may come in at the last minute, but we're coming. All right.
Coming. I saw some people talking about Susky, the Hobie event coming up, and worried about it being at 75. I said, you people don't know. Thursday will roll around.
It'll be at 115,
Yeah.
120, I'd say.
Kayak
That's
anglers,
how it goes.
yeah, they're notorious for waiting till the last minute. Our local events, we'll have 15 guys the night of the tournament and wake up to 70. So you never know.
But you can ask my boss for my expense reports at work. What's that, Steve?
As much as we spend on fishing tackle, you got to wait on that last paycheck before the tournament.
That's right.
Yeah. Steve got to get Mama to clear that tournament before it's going to happen.
Yeah,
Don't let him lie to you.
I let her go to sleep and get that change. Yeah. But we one of the Allen boys asked you, John, about the Classic, the area. Can you name an area for them?
Texas.
Yeah. And Patrick, people are, a lot of people love 2-day events, and we've discussed the championship for certain 2 days, possibly, and looking at events going forward. We'll all, obviously, John, myself, and Patrick, and one Tyler, we'll talk about it, scope it out, and see if the logistics and the manpower will work for it. Because as John said, you hang out and you see what the people want and you try to give it to them. So that answers that question. But we're going to Texas. So
Is it going to be DFW at least? Can we get that out of you?
Yes.
Okay, that's good enough. You hear that,
Is the
Clifton?
captain's meeting at tight ends? Just kidding.
Speechless.
Don't Google
No.
that. It's like a Hooters in Texas.
Yeah, I got you.
before we go into 2021 on state level kind of things, if you don't mind, I'd like to interject something.
Sure.
Head over to, now this is abbreviated, the Bass Nation Kayak Series. A lot of people that have tried to find it. That's B period, A period, S period, S period. And on there, Tyler Cole has links to everything lacrosse related. Most of the condensed down popular ramps at 7, 8, and 9. He's got all the information for your fishing license and all that. Looks like it's around the 17th of the month that posted all that stuff. So that's a great resource, and that's the page. When you have questions and everything, the hardcore cut and dry information is always on the Bass website. We just default to Facebook, but it's on the Bass website. And on there will always be the director's phone numbers for you to call. I know Dwayne answers messages. I don't know if he ever sleeps. I see him post stuff at 2 o'clock, and I get a text at 6:30 when he's at work. So he's always working on something. So he always is quick to answer. But again, the Bass Nation Kayak Series, it's got everything you need to know because a lot of us know Tyler Cole. He's top shelf in everything he does. I'm really not impressed because of surprise. Because he's got a ton of information on here. Ton. He must be the boss at his job because he is absolutely. He's put together more information on here than probably any tournament I've ever seen. So, hats off to Tyler Cole. He's an amazing dude and glad to be a friend.
Yeah. The one time I've been to the Cross, it was a tournament he was running, and I went up there, and that's one of the reasons I decided to go back to this one because I trust Tyler to put on a good show.
Yeah, not knowing me any more than he does, if I hadn't hurt my back and missed my last 3 play days at work, dude, it's a place to stay. Here's my kayak, my fishing gear. Just get up here, So, and that's what John alluded to, our social setting, and they got to experience it and really enjoyed it. And I'm sure, we see stories about the boaters all the time sharing fuses or a spool of line and things like that where it's allowed. We've got that too, and it's great to be able to put that out there for the people who don't know about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting up there. If you guys are watching this, comment if you're going. I want to know who's going up to the cross. Maybe we can socially distance and hook up for some cheese curds or something up there.
Yeah. What's that restaurant, John?
What was that?
The meeting restaurant?
Freight House. The Freight House.
Freight House.
That are fishing that event, you should have received an email shortly after 5:00 tonight with the updated info sheet that's got the Freight House on it. How we're a few other details about how we're running this event, how we're registering. We're going to register everybody by their last name in groups. So like A through C is 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and I don't want to go through the whole thing because I'll tell somebody wrong and they'll say they heard it, and so it'll be gospel. But I don't just check your emails if you're fishing that event. You should get an info sheet, some other detailed information. We're going to do some other different things. We're going to send the link to the briefing next week. Wednesday, I think we're going to send that out. Try to send it out on Wednesday. They got to watch it before they come get their board checked at the Freight House. They won't be able to get their board checked without watching the briefing first. Won't be able to get their identifier without watching that. And there will be a little secret code in the briefing. So they'll have to watch it to get approved to get their board checked. And some other things we're going to make you be off the water at 3 o'clock on Friday. Got to be off the water at 3 o'clock. That's all in that info sheet and the email that y'all got today. So make sure you're checking that, and you'll get some other stuff here. I was thinking there was something else we were going to do. On Friday morning, you'll get a text simply asking if you're in town and still planning on fishing the tournament. Yes or no answer. And that's basically a check-in for us to make sure you're there. And that way we can, because our Danette and Gretchen, who were the admin ladies at Logan Martin and at Lake Fork, they're not coming. It's just I'm going to be the only one there, and we're going to do all the computer stuff remotely from the office. So that's what that's all about. So just make sure you're checking your emails if you're fishing that event.
Hey, Steve, let me ask you this, and maybe John, you know this too. What about that new catch board? Is it allowed up there?
No, we haven't had any discussions at all on any catch board changes.
Okay, so the same boards.
Standard measuring boards. We've got hog trough and the old school metal catch.
Now the old school. Now that catch board's old school. It's like 2 years old.
Yeah. It's lead. The old lead catch board.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I know a lot of people got those things already, so I'm sure they'd be asking.
Oh yeah.
So let's see.
So the real question everybody wants to know, John, what's it going to take to get a kayak angler to MC the classic? Can we get a guy that knows kayak fishing on that microphone so we don't act like we're fishing with Mickey Mouse poles and inflatable rafts?
Maybe.
I like that, John. Politician.
So we know it's in Texas, and we know we might be able to get somebody on the microphone to kayak fish.
I nominate Duke Tran in Texas.
Hey, Steve already asked me that question.
I'm sure we see it.
This is what he said, when can we get one of our own up on stage? And this was my answer to Steve. We have one of our own up on stage because this is the way I look at it. He may not be a kayak angler, but he's a bass guy.
I know, but if he talks to us like we're little kids, that ain't helping nothing, man. We're out. I mean, we're grown
Hey.
folks. We're throwing a 10 grand.
Hey,
or so
again, this was his first time
Mhm.
dealing with y'all. The only reason he was up there is because I can't do it. It is the strangest thing in the world to MC in a big arena like that. You can't. You speak into the mic and you hear it about 3 seconds later. And it's very hard. And you're asking guys a question, and then they're like hearing you talk, but then they hear the question a second time a little bit later, and they're confused, and they're like a deer in the headlights. And you're just trying, and you got production in your ear telling you got 5 minutes to get these 10 guys, all weighed in or whatever. We go through it with the high school and the college too. It can be a train wreck sometimes, but really it's probably only a train wreck to those of us that are standing there on stage, the anglers and the MC himself. Everybody else, for the most part, thinks, it went well, but I understand that, we don't, that'd be like, putting you up there on the, doing what Dave Mercer does. But
Roy D. Mercer?
It's hard. I would have had Dave Mercer do it. But
Yeah.
He's got and Dave would probably do it, but they don't want to pay him anymore. And he would probably ask for more money. So
I'll cut you a deal.
So
$100 and a 12-pack of yeast.
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about 2-day championship if we can make that work. We're open to discussing anything like that. Just don't. What I ask is that don't get too upset if it doesn't happen right away.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Well, we've been kayak bass fishing for long enough. We're used to things not happening, even if we're told they're going to for years. We're accustomed to that. But I mean, honestly, like the fact that you're willing to take the criticism and acknowledge the issues that people bring up. I mean, you will never have a shortage of feedback from this community. You'll never have a shortage of support if you do it right, and you'll never have a shortage of feedback. Those are two things I'll promise you every time.
Well, I mean, you're not any different than any of our other series. I mean, we get feedback, if that's what you want to call it, all the time. We do our best. You can't please. This is kind of our motto, my motto. You can't please everybody. And you never will please everybody, but we're going to sure try. I mean, we're going to do our best to try, and even though we know it's never going to happen, we're going to do our best, and that's all we can do.
Hey, John, I've got another question for you. We had, what about with the numbers we've been showing? You talked about the people registering early. What about actually flipping that the other way and cutting that to a 1 week cutoff on payment instead of the 2 weeks, since we've shown some numbers, and I bet you the numbers would go up even higher.
Yeah, I don't think that one will happen. I don't think that one will fly. I was kind of surprised that I even got the 2 week cutoff to fly, and it just has more to do with the workload of the staff that we have. We really don't have a big staff in the tournament department. We have Gretchen, Danette, and we just hired a new girl, Alyssa. And those three do all the registrations and all the paperwork and everything that goes with every single series that we do. They're not just like one of them working on kayak, one of them working on high school. And honestly, the more time we can give them, the smoother that it's going to be and the better that it's going to be. So they wanted a 30-day cutoff, like all of our tournament, almost all of our tournament are 30 days. and we were able to convince them that 14 days would be okay. And we've had a few issues with the 14-day thing here and there, but we've worked through them, and we got everybody signed up. That I think hopefully, once everybody realizes that it's 14 days and we go a year or two, that maybe that'll ease up a little bit and they'll all sign up on time.
Yeah, well, I think, people are adapting both ways. You guys have a structure that you're used to dealing with, and then the kayak guys are trying to, they want it their way as well. So probably after some time, get used to it and meet in the middle somewhere. The numbers are still good, I guess, in spite of that. From a lot of people weren't sure what to expect, and like Ryan said earlier on, for pulling 100 plus in the first few events is, it's been great to see, and people are excited to watch it grow. And we appreciate you coming on here and answering some tough questions and giving explanations on some of the easy ones.
Well, anytime. I'm glad to come on anytime, and we can talk some more and go talk over some ideas. And I hope everybody signs up for Clear Lake. I am a little cautiously optimistic about Clear Lake. I did get word today that they are not allowing any other tournaments out of Kayak Vista, which is our host hotel, because of the COVID thing. But I do not think that affects the kayak event, and neither did the lady I was talking to at Kayak. So we think we're going to be, we'll have a tournament, I think, either no matter what, but it's going to be different as well, just simply because their restrictions are not allowing fishing tournaments. So, but lacrosse is first, and let's get that one done. And I'm excited about going there, and I think it'll be a good time.
Oh man, we've got a busy couple months coming up in the kayak tournament world. Ryan's heading to Pennsylvania here probably in a few days, aren't you?
I got to drive to Mobile in the morning, then I'm going to Pennsylvania via Mobile.
So we got Susky. We got what's right after that? Clear Lake.
Clear Lake. We've got the Coosas coming up somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Dardanelle. Yeah, I forget
Dardanelle.
that every time. Where's Arkansas?
I swear, Ryan will never fish a tournament. Put all the tournaments in Arkansas next year, Steve. Make him come here.
No, I won't do it. I'll retire.
Before we run, what we're doing, Ryan and I kind of brainstormed a little bit, and for Bass Nation, going into 2021, it looks like we're going to try to have our state championship in late February or right after the Bassmaster Classic. And in doing so, we'll have to have a field for that, obviously. So what we'll do here, since we like to piss Ryan off, we're going to have some wintertime tournaments.
Right in the middle of every hunting season.
Looks like December, we'll probably be fishing Del Hollow for a Bass Nation event. And then we've got a commitment from earlier in the year on Norris or Douglas. So that should put us in areas where we can hopefully get a good turnout there. We'll roll over a percentage of the Tennessee State Championship qualifiers this year based on your finish. Pull from those two events, and then that'll give us a field for that Tennessee Bass Nation State Championship. And from there, if I'm not mistaken, John, next year, instead of 10%, it's 5 anglers from each state, I think, state championship. So we'll get that going on that. And what that'll allow us to do is go ahead and let, Bassmaster, Hobie, KBN, anything else get their big schedules out. And then we'll just drop in our Bass Nation events wherever it's convenient, so that we don't cause conflict, because we don't want to draw from any of these larger series for our state level stuff. And then, obviously, with bass fishing, it's just going through the roof every year. I've only been doing this, 5 or 6 years with Ryan, and dude, it's blown my mind how much it's just grown. I can tell because I get obsessed with it too. But so when we get our schedule out like that, it'll allow us to just not have conflict there. And then the bigger picture of it all is, at the end of the year, we won't be where we're at right now. We won't be trying to squeeze in an elite state championship in between, a lot of other events, because, don't forget, we're talking about maxing out, John's peg meter. November 21st is last
peg meter.
Peg meter.
flat the Bassmaster Classic in March. That's on Chicago.
All right.
As quick as you can, blow it through the roof. Let's peg that number, and try to strike the tree. And
Blow the roof off, carry it on the stick. Let's go.
Throw all the cliches at it. I love it. I love it.
My boy Steve he's got a card up there.
Steve ain't ever short.
James
That's why he needs to be the MC, Ryan. He's never short on such stuff.
You never know what he's going to say. Hey, throw it out. And sometimes the fish will bring it back. Then you're in good shape.
Hey, that's how you second place in tournaments. Just throw it, they bring it back.
That's right.
Oh man.
In Tennessee, Brady Garza has Georgia rolling. They'll have a series next year. Jimmy Skinner and Alverson and Daniel Perry. Jimmy's the lead on it. Or I've got Alabama rolling and lined out. Actually, this weekend, if you're not going to Susky, we're fishing Lakewide Gunnersville. It's an open series event. Send Jimmy Skinner your $30 to join Bass Nation. If you're already a Bassmaster member, it's a $100 entry fee on Tourney X. We're going to fish from 5:30 time to I believe 3 p.m. Best top anglers or 10% of that tournament will get to go to Bassmaster Classic next year too. If you can't make one of our big opens for the end of the year, Freddie and them's is in October, I believe, on Lake Sinclair in Georgia. If I said that right, is it Sinclair? St. Clair's north of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lake Sinclair.
Sinclair.
So they've got it set up as an open series too, but I believe they've got the Georgia clubs at grassroots level lined up, which is what we'll do in Tennessee also next year. Next year, we'll have our series pull some, and then we'll dip down to our local cast clubs and just say the top one or two in your Angler of the Year race get to qualify. So, that way, hopefully more people will fish your grassroots clubs and then fish out. Well,
I love it, man. Big things happening. Ryan, you got anything else for us before we get out of here, buddy?
I look forward to seeing the folks that are heading to the Susky. I want to go up there and pet some smallmouth. If anybody wants to make side bets on Steve-O landing in the top 5 this weekend, I got a real itchy feeling he's going to do pretty good. So I'll take those bets. Y'all go out and see Steve-O and Leonard Skinner's cousin Jimmy, and y'all catch some fish.
All right. Well, hopefully we see a BOS plaque up on the wall behind you next Monday, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. John, we appreciate you, sir, taking the time to come on here and chat with us. You got anything else before we let you guys roll out for the night? Mama's wanting ice cream, so I got to get out of here.
Yeah, no, I thank you for having us, and until next time, I guess.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, and let me give a shout out to Katie once again. She hooked us up all night with the links. They were flying in the comments. She had links to everything we mentioned before I could even finish the sentence. So, Katie,
always
thank you,
on top of it.
as always. And I appreciate everybody for watching and all the comments, and we'll be back here next Monday, hopefully with Ryan, the Susquehanna winner. All right, guys.
I'll win something.
Yeah, we are out of here. Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.